Good morning. Good morning, my beautiful friends. It is almost afternoon, but not quite yet. Happy, awesome Saturday to you. This is indeed awesome Saturday. This is the Sabbath. This is the day that we stop focusing on doing and start focusing on being. This is where we set aside all of our ideas about what it is that we are working toward, and we just sit back and relax and be, and we take life as it comes, and ultimately we just enjoy a wonderful Sabbath rest, put our minds at rest, put our bodies at rest. And so a happy awesome Saturday to you. Happy awesome Saturday, Jan. Wonderful to see you here today. Hello, Lane. Good to see you all as well. So, anyways, yeah, it being the Sabbath, it being awesome Saturday, we are going to remind ourselves that we are awesome, and so let's celebrate our inherent value and worth. And we're going to be continuing the sermon series that I started last week on magic words. Last week I talked about the word yes and just the tremendous power that it has in our lives. Today I'm going to be talking about a word that we probably use very often, but not necessarily intentionally. A word that we hear all the time, and yet perhaps don't even recognize it as being as powerful as it is. A word that I've said many times in this service already, and you probably can't guess which one it is because we are talking about the word we. So the word we is the bridge between ourselves and spirit. And without the word we mistake isolation for identity. Oftentimes we'll say I am this or I am that, and especially I mean in the wake up call with Maui Paul every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. we say all manner of empowering I am statements, and I am are incredibly powerful words. But we is essentially a word that helps us to understand that we are collective consciousness in disguise, that we are collectively conscious, that we are expressing ourselves as human on this plane of understanding, and that I and you, while they are very powerful words, pale in comparison to the power of we. I can do things, we can do bigger things. And so let's talk about the difference between I, you, and we for a moment here. And so, the word I and you are incredibly powerful, but they're also dangerous. And they're dangerous when left unchecked, and they're dangerous when used incorrectly. When we say I am, or we use I statements, I feel, or I think, or I this, or I that, when we say this to somebody else, it's kind of like a performance. We're shining a spotlight on our own lives. We're talking about life from our own experience. When I say that I feel something, or I saw something, or I am something, then it's more difficult to connect with my listener because my listener isn't me. My listener has their own perspectives, their own choices, their own ways of being, and those ways do not exactly align with mine. My listener doesn't entirely understand what the background is, what it was that created that I am statement inside of me. And so while I is an incredibly powerful word, it's also a bit more of like standing on a stage and talking to other people. Now, when we say you this or you that, it can turn into a lecture. I mean, I have never been so annoyed as when somebody tells me about tells me about myself, and they said you should do this, you should do that. Well, quit shoulding on me. I don't like it when you should all over me. And once people tell me this, oh, you should do this, you should do that, it's like they're pointing their finger at me. And I think to myself, when they say things from the point of view of you, that they're placing themselves above me, that they're like, putting themselves in the place of giving me advice, of saying, oh, well, I know better than you do, when the reality is that they don't know me as well as I know me. And so, when we use the word you, when we talk about somebody, we're like, oh, well, you should do this, or you should do that, or you feel this, or you feel that. We are, we really run the risk of judging or pandering. We can't pander with an I am statement. We can't judge with an I am statement. We sure can with you are statements, though. In fact, when I log on to social media and I see people having the pointless arguments that they have on social media all the time, it's oftentimes you statements that are the ones that are really that are being used. So, I mean, I literally just saw somebody was denigrating their political opponents by name calling, which is unfortunately all too common on social media nowadays. And they were just talking about, well, you think this and you think that. And when I read that, I thought to myself, you're not going to convince them by telling them what they think. You're talking about what you think they think. You're not telling them what they actually think. And if if you had bothered to use different language, perhaps you'd be able to connect. But unfortunately, that they are long past attempting to connect with these people who are their opponents. At this point, they're just name calling into the void, which is just as useless as it sounds. So, so we want to make sure that when we use I and you, that we understand that both of these are ways of keeping our distance while pretending to draw near. We pretend to have a connection with somebody while also kind of keeping our distance from them. So just remember, when we use I am statements or I statements, it's like standing on a stage under a spotlight. And when we use you statements, we're pointing a finger at somebody. But when we use we statements, it's like we pull the chairs into a circle around a fire and we collaborate. Now, some may say, isn't it important to express myself or to hold other people accountable? And yeah, it is. Yeah, expression matters, accountability matters too. Connection matters more, and connection is more effective. Okay, fine, we've expressed ourselves, great. And if we express ourselves and nobody cares, then we're just where we started. No, we might as well have not expressed ourselves at all. And sure, holding other people accountable is great. However, when we hold other people accountable, but they don't want to be held accountable, or they don't agree with the measure to which we are holding them, then we are right back where we started. We've accomplished nothing except separating ourselves from the people around us. So, without connection, self expression is just noise. And noise, in case you're not familiar with it, is unwanted sound. So, with connection, without, so with connection, self expression really is able to land better. And without connection, accountability becomes an attack. It becomes not just a finger pointing; it becomes a finger pointing in a witch hunt or at a court, or like in a courtroom. Nobody wants to have fingers pointed at them that way. And we teach all the time on this show that life is art, and life is art that's made together. It's not made in isolation. The art that I make in my life and the art that you make in your life is art that we participate in together. I can paint a canvas, and I can paint a canvas. Probably not that great, but I can paint a canvas. We create a living masterpiece. And so we isn't just a word, we is a resonance. We is what happens when souls remember that we are singing in the same key, that we are having a shared experience, that we are collectively conscious. And so when we use we language intentionally, conversations can soften, hearts can open up, defenses drop, because we is inclusive. I can't judge you if I use a we statement, because anything that I say about us, I'm saying about me and you. And so, so like, you know, we, we have to consider that, that when we use we are using inclusive language. Now, some may say about this, they might say, well, aren't we still different people? So isn't unity some kind of erasure of self? and it's really not. I mean, the harmony is not homogeny. We let's say that we're singing a song. We need to use the notes to sing the song. We can't sing a song that is all of one note. Each and every one of us is singing a note, and yet that the notes themselves, when they play together, play as a harmony. And so we're one. That doesn't mean that we're the same. Every voice matters, and every thread adds to the tapestry of life. And separation is the illusion, and connection is the fact. We're taught that we are all islands, that we're all ourselves, that we're all responsible for ourselves. And consider, I've lived on islands before, and do you know how islands, seem like they are, seem like they are all standing alone in the middle of the ocean? Well, they sure are. But you know what they are underneath of the ocean? Connected to the same land mass. They're connected to the same exact underwater mountain range, and just a bit of them are poking up over the top. But the fact is that they were formed by the same tectonic forces. They were formed by the same volcanic forces. Islands are always connected to each other. So when we use the word we, we're simply naming what is already true beneath all the noise and all the lies of life. So ultimately, when we use the word we, and when two or more are gathered with shared intention, something sacred comes to life. The word we brings forth the spiritual emergence of a group mind. And I'm sure you felt it before. I'm sure that you felt like when you start talking to a people in a group of when you're a part of a group of people and the conversation turns to something that everybody is interested in, it's like a group of strangers can start behaving like their siblings. Or I'm sure you've seen it on the news. Perhaps you've even been a part of it when there are protests happening. A whole crowd can move as one. It's very dangerous. Or perhaps not even protests, but just any large group of people. When they start moving as one, they create their own chemistry. I'm sure most of us have been on teams, and those teams, that think and speak and act as one living organism, as part of in service of a goal. I see that Pepper has like some kind of a thing to say. Hi, Pepper.
Hi. So humans are, by our very nature, we're prone to herd mentality. To piggyback off of your protests and just people as general in a group, we can be as individual as we want, but the moment you start to get people together, you start getting like two, three, four plus people together, they'll start to move as one.
Mm-hmm.
It's same as, like even bees in a hive. Each bee is different, and yet still they communicate with each other, and still they work together. Just like the birds, the bees, the animals, everything around us, we all work together, and we do better together when we act as a we instead of just an I or a you.
That's Pepper's Birds and the Bees talk. You've now been birds and bees by Pepper at the Awesome Saturday service. Thank you,
Get some
Pepper.
ass and talk about the birds and the bees.
Get some ass. Talk about the birds and the bees. It's a religious service, I swear. Yeah. But anyways, in the end, the collective is not an erasure of self; it's the fulfillment of it. And our highest I is always found in we. In fact, if we look at wisdom literature, if we look at, I mean, in particular, the Western wisdom literature. So when God uses pronouns, they are translated as we. We are, not I am. We are. And so it's very interesting, God, when God is, when God speaks in wisdom literature, particularly in the Old Testament, or the Testament, as Susan Wallins calls it. But when God speaks in some of our oldest creation stories, God uses the pronouns we and us to describe God's self. And so the highest I am is always found in we.
Ooh, that's good.
So how do we practice this? I mean, we as a discipline, it's not the default. The default is I. We always talk about things from our own perspective by saying I this or I that. We, however, requires us to shift our language intentionally, to listen for places where we're using the word I or the word you, and ask ourselves, is this a place where the word we could be used more effectively? If I'm talking about my own experience to somebody else, um, And I have to ask myself, am I just like, am I shining a spotlight on myself? Am I stepping on a stage to talk about me? Does me really matter all that much in this? Or is this something that could become a we? Or the next time that I am condescending to lecture somebody about their life and pointing my finger about all of their all of the ways in which they could be better, I have to ask myself, do I also embody these traits? Perhaps I could replace the you with a we and they connect in an even more profound way. When we use the word we speak from a shared ground. We don't speak from separate stages. And so, the fact is that when we use the word we, it's like we are watering the seeds in our garden. Every single drop of the water that comes out of the watering can seems like it's individual, and yet when they go together into the ground, they mix together and become a we, and ultimately grow a beautiful garden. So, in the end, we don't lose our voice through the collective. We discover our voice in the collective, because as we speak, we get very quick feedback about the we. When other people, who are included in that we are also listening to it, they can chime in because they also are a part of the we. You have no right to talk about my I statements because you don't know who I am, and I have no right to to push my beliefs on you by saying that you are this or you are that because I don't know who you are. And yet, when we talk about we, when we use the word we, and when we use it intentionally, it allows us to connect in ways that we could never connect before. So we is the sound of hearts aligning and not just heads nodding. So, in the end, we have to understand that I was the beginning and that you was the test and that we returns us to wholeness. And so my my closing thoughts on this are, how can we really apply this in our lives this week? And I say that whenever we recognize that we are using I am or you are statements, let's ask ourselves, let's pause and let's shift our language toward we and see the results that it creates for the people that we are, that we are speaking with, and for the relationship as a whole. And when we simply meditate on the truth that we are collective consciousness expressing as human on this plane of understanding, it allows us to more effectively shift that language toward we. And so let's speak the word we intentionally and use God's pronoun and watch what is built in the space that we create together. So, in the end, picture ourselves not as an island, but as a vital and a living, breathing part of a continent of souls. We are the land that rise up together out of the ocean of being, and the ocean of being is our truth. We simply we simply observe the parts of it that stick up above the water, but in the end, we are the ocean and not the island. All right, my beautiful friends, I want to say thank you so much for attending the awesome Saturday service. It was really nice to see everybody here today. Thank you so much. I'll be continuing the Magic Words series. I'm turning this, this has been a book manuscript that's been kicking around on my laptop for probably about 5 years now, and I'm starting to really flesh it out. So I'm very excited about that. Next week, I'll be going over another magic word, but all magic words are magic words, just like the word we. One syllable, no more than 4 letters. We use them all the time, and consciously using them will absolutely change our lives. So I want to say thank you, everybody, for being here. I love you. I appreciate you. I care about you. Thanks so much. Let's see you soon. Shauna, Amy Jo, wonderful to see you here today. Lane, great to see you. Jan, great to see you as well. Hope that everybody has a wonderful, wonderful time, and I will talk to you on Monday at 9 a.m. But until then, just a reminder that we are awesome. So let's recognize our inherent value and worth. I'll talk to you guys on Monday at 9 a.m. Until then, have a wonderful, happy, awesome Saturday, and aloha from paradise.